Hi there from Chicago. This is Big Ten Today, presented by CDW. I'm Mike Hall, and this is a guy who was here like 4 hours ago. Jordan Taylor had the late shift last night. Did you get any sleep?
Nah, sleep is for the weak, man. You know what I'm saying? We're here to talk some hoops. Let's get to it, man.
I mean, it's that time of year, isn't it? Every game, like, listen, I get it. Sometimes the December games, even January, you're like, we're not close. Like, these games now matter. You're at the point where you're like, this win might affect them getting in the tournament or not. Yeah, 100%.
And we got a game last night that I think decided the Big Ten championship.
Already?
Yeah, I'm calling it, man. I think that was a huge win for Michigan. I know we're going to get into it more, but that game I had circled on my calendar. I actually had the Purdue-Michigan State game circled, but Michigan State, we talked about kind of running into a buzzsaw with their schedule right
now. Well, you led us right to the big story of today's show, and it was that battle for first place yesterday. Michigan won against Purdue barely. A 2-point victory at home against the Boilermakers. Danny Wolf ended up actually missing some late free throws, which allowed Purdue's Braden Smith with a chance to win it with a 3 at the buzzer, but pretty good defense made for a pretty awkward shot, and it went awry. Michigan gets another huge win, a top 10 win. Here's Dusty May.
What an amazing environment to play college basketball game in, the energy, the enthusiasm, and we always try to do our part to keep everyone on their toes until the very, very end. So credit our guys as well, but just really happy for our group. They stayed the course. There were some times throughout the game that we generated great looks, we generated shots at the rim, and they weren't dropping. And the easy thing to do is to drop your head and get in your own feelings. And I thought they stayed together, they stayed poised, they kept battling, they kept working. Our assistant coaches did an unbelievable job with the scout, with the curveballs we were able to throw. And we used everything in the arsenal to try to slow down Braden and Trey and those guys. And man, it's a good basketball team. We can't have any more respect for a program than we do Purdue. Their staff, their players, everyone associated with it. They built something that's incredibly special. That's kind of the gold standard. You know, there's a couple of those in our league, but they're a gold standard in our profession. So just proud and happy for our guys to get out of here with the win.
Before we get to some of the big picture takeaways, let's get small picture on this game. Purdue led for 34 minutes. What happened?
Well, I think Will Cheddar happened, honestly, in that late in that first half. Got TKR to the bench with that little hook chicken wing. It was physical, it was aggressive, but Will Cheddar did a great job at kind of selling that. When he went to the bench, Michigan closed the gap. Then again in the second half, Purdue, again, went up 10. Will Cheddar, energy all over the place, cut that gap down to 4 again. So I think it was his energy as well as Roddy Gale and Amari Burnett, those guys who kind of stymied Purdue's energy.
Right, yeah, TKR fouls out, first foul's out. CJ Cox gets 4 fouls in this game, so foul trouble is definitely an issue for the Boilermakers. But how about the balance on Michigan? Like, I've actually feel like we've seen this, Michigan State's another team that does this a lot of the times, where there's not a guy scoring 28 carrying everyone. You had Golden, Wolf, Donaldson, and Gale all between 12 and 15 points in this game.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Dusty May wants, right? He wants everybody to have the green light. There's no bad shot, really. They're all good shots as long as the ball is moving. I think the most interesting thing about this Michigan run right now is Roddy Gale and Amari Burnett, when you talk about balance, have not been playing great. Amari Burnett's been 30% from the 3 in the last 4 games. He's been 29th in the country or higher in effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage. He was good last night. Roddy Gale has been really struggling, 3 of 27 in conference play from 3, 6 points per games in the last 4. He got it going. So you got to see a glimpse of when that balance is clicking, the ceiling for this Michigan team. Oh, and by the way, they stopped turning the ball over. Right. The astute Robbie Hummel mentioned when they don't turn the ball over, they get a lot of good shots. Only 3 in the second half, 11 for the game, which is a big contrast from the 22 the first time they played Purdue.
So let me paint a picture for you. Michigan wins 8 games all of last year. They fire their head coach. They bring in a guy named Dusty May, who has not been a head coach at a massive level. He had a great run in that NCAA tournament, did a great job in Florida, but he's never been in the Big Ten as a head coach. He brings in a bunch of guys. A lot of them did not have Big Ten experience. There's a good chance this is year 1 of a 2 to 3 year rebuild. Nope. How come none of that happened? How are they this good in year 1?
You know, I got to, my first year at the Big Ten has been great. Literally the first thing I did was sit down with Dusty May. It's Michigan, my first game. They were playing Tarleton State. I sat down next to him for 5 minutes, and it was very apparent at why he's at Michigan and why he's had the success he has. He just gets it. The way he talks about his players, he grows these guys up to be great young men, of course, but also just to be pros. It's 0.5 mentality. They play with pace. They defend. They really don't have a lot of weaknesses. One thing that they do really well is they shoot the three, right? You got 7-foot Danny Wolf. Trey Donaldson has gotten better and better, who I love, controlling the point. But they get to the free throw line as well. You know, a lot of the other teams, Illinois, Wisconsin, Purdue, UCLA, all in the bottom half at free throw rate. This Michigan team, they get to the free throw line. They have guys who give you energy. We talked about the balance, and that's all because what Dusty May has designed, it complements each other perfectly. You can go Will Cheddar at the 5 and Danny Wolf at the 4. Will Cheddar at the 4, Vlad Golden at the 5. And again, the way they play, it just really opens up to unselfish basketball. And I think these guys have bought in and understood that, you know, when one guy wins or when the whole team wins, we all win.
I'm going to give a stat, but before then, I want to put perspective on it. There are still 7 games in the regular season for Michigan. There's still potentially 3 Big Ten tournament games and maybe 6 NCAA tournament games. Theoretically, it's possible.
Yep.
They already have 19 wins after 8 last year. He's got to be in the National Coach of the Year discussion at this point.
100%. I think, you know, I saw the other day, he's already getting mentioned for the Indiana job. They're already trying to get him
Right,
away.
yeah.
They're already trying to steal him. But no, 100%. Just bringing Vlad Golden, you look at not just the team success, but the way he's developed individual guys. Vlad Golden is out there. I got to do a game where he's out there shooting threes. He looked like Steph Curry or Nikola Jokic for a half. He's finding guys on the back door. He's really re-implementing. Michigan has a history for having innovative coaches. Coach Beeline was ahead of his time with the offense. Now you see these 2 7-footers. So I think, again, his ability to get these guys to buy in, but then he had a vision. He came with the plan, and he's executed the plan. And then to go in and beat Purdue, that is huge because Purdue has, to me, the best player, not only in the conference. I don't think it's particularly close, and that's saying a lot when he's got an All-American on his team, but also maybe the best player in the country.
Well, this is a Michigan team now alone in first place. They have the lead on everybody else, including the Boilermakers at this point. They have 9 conference wins by 4 points or less. Now, does that tell you, yeah, they know how to win close games, or does that tell you they've had a little luck on their side? You can be the cynical guy. Some of this is coming back to them at some point.
Yeah, well, Dave Revson, he was the cynical guy. He was saying they're, you know, John Bon Jovi, living on a prayer, right? But, you know, I look at that. I look at the Namari Burnett, the Roddy Gales. They have not been playing their best basketball, and they're finding a way to win games. That's what good teams do. You've seen it in a lot of different dynasties. I'm not comparing Michigan to a dynasty just yet, but you've seen it with Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, the wheels fell off in the Super Bowl, but you have positional size. They can defend. You have guard play. I think they have the highest upside in March because they've been in these situations now. It's inevitable to face those type of situations come Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament. They're prepared for that, but if you're not careful, they'll also blow your wheels off.
They're now ahead of Purdue. They're also ahead of Michigan State, a team that's also highly ranked, a team that had a chance to make history yesterday against Indiana. However, the Hoosiers got in the way. A win would have given Tom Izzo more conference victories than Bob Knight had in his career, making him alone at the top of that record all time. But the Hoosiers were like, no, that's our former coach. You're not doing that against us.
Yeah.
That's one of the bigger surprises to me of this entire Big Ten season. When you think of how low the program feels right now for Indiana, the fact that it's a program that you've now got a lame duck head coach for the rest of the year, doing this against Michigan State, who's been so good and so consistent all season. I didn't see that one coming at all.
Well, Indiana is one of those. I mean, they almost did it to Purdue in
Right,
Mackey,
that's
right?
true.
So Indiana is one of those teams that a lot of people were talking about. They were going to be at the top of the conference. And I think, you know, of course, Bob Knight, RIP, smiling down on us, said, you know, Izzo, not just yet. He's going to make us wait a little bit. But, you know, they have a lot of talent, and we saw it. They had Mackenzie Mbako and Umar Ballo on the bench in the second half, and it was Malik Renew, who's obviously been injured, coming through 14 second half points. But the one thing that Indiana can do is they can go back old school with Tom Izzo. We talked about this is, you know, not your mom and pop, or this is your mom and pop's Tom Izzo team,
Right.
the way they defend and they're aggressive and, you know, at the point of attack. Indiana threw the ball in the post. And they said, you know, we're going to beat you up. Michigan State second in the conference, in points in the paint. Indiana 7th or 8th, but Indiana won that battle. And it was Malik Renew beating up Jackson Kohler, beating up Simon Zapala. And I don't think those guys were used to defending like that anymore, honestly, because who really plays like that?
Yeah.
Maybe Maryland has Derek Queen and Julian Reese. So I think they threw something at Michigan State that was foreign, and then it allowed them to get that zone defense set. It was really a great coaching job by Mike Woodson as well.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to next. Like, maybe not everybody has a Malik Renew, but other teams can do a zone defense, theoretically. Is that a blueprint, maybe, on how you can try to attack Michigan State the rest of the year?
Well, I think now in this new era, everybody's about pace, right? Michigan's about pace. Illinois is about pace. So the thing that really helped set up that zone defense, again, was controlling the paint, throwing it into Umar Ballo, playing those short rolls, the great reads by Miles Rice and Trey Galloway. They did a great job controlling the game, whereas everybody else, they want to play fast. Michigan State says, we'll let you play fast. We're going to beat you up, and we're going to play fast right back. So I don't know if there's too many teams that can follow that blueprint. To answer your question in a roundabout way, it is a blueprint, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to follow that blueprint or really want to follow that blueprint.
Right. It's a morning show. I mean, let's just keep it.
Yeah, I know. I was up late, man. I'm still, Big Ten after dark.
Exactly. Michigan State now, sometimes when you're approaching a record, it's a taller mountain than it would normally be because the record is there for you to climb up to it. They've now lost 3 of their last 4 with this Izzo record standing there. What's your level of concern on them versus you being like, they're going to get the win? We've seen how good they are for the majority of the season. This is just a 2-week blip.
Well, I was concerned just because the schedule that they played. They looked really good, and they were beating teams the way that you would expect a good team to beat them. But then you looked at their schedule, and you had to go to the West Coast. You had an Oregon team who's struggling, but clearly pushed them because Jackson Shellstad is another weak spot, another blueprint for that defense. He plays with a lot of speed, doesn't allow them to get into their hedges. And then this is the one where it was like you're supposed to get. It's Indiana at home. They're struggling. But now you got to go to Illinois, Purdue, Michigan. There's no slouches right there. You see it. And it's a little nerve-wracking for them. It's danger zone. Illinois is a team that, they're going to beat them up on the glass, which is a little old-school element as well. Purdue is a team where obviously, you have to focus on Braden Smith, which is what Michigan State is built for. But, they have to get back to their identity. They have to find that defensive identity, and then they have to find some consistency from Jace Richardson, Jaden Adkins offensively. Because, again, you talk about Michigan living on a prayer. To guard in this day and age and really play defense but not be able to score the basketball and shoot it is a recipe for long-term disaster.
It would have a Big Ten fan concerned if the narrative is why the Big Ten has, as a whole, struggled in the NCAA tournament is that you get beat up during the year, and not just physically, but much more so you're just playing so many good teams in so many tough arenas. You look at Michigan State's schedule and you're going, geez, I wonder if that's going to happen. Here's another way to look at it. 7 conference games left. 5 of them are ranked opponents. The 2 that are not are at Illinois, who has been ranked a majority of the year, and at Iowa. That's brutal.
Yeah, Illinois is a ranked team as far as I'm
Correct.
concerned.
I agree.
They've had a ton of injuries, and now they're healthy. And to be honest, Illinois, we'll get to them, but their team, them and Michigan, have the highest upside in terms of postseason potential. So it's going to be a ride for Michigan State.
Well, you mentioned we'll get to Illinois. We'll actually do that right after this break. They had a big win yesterday, taking on UCLA. UCLA had figured things out. After a long losing streak, they'd won 7 straight games, but it's never easy to beat a Brad Underwood team in Champaign, and the Bruins did not. 83-78, Illini victory. Strong comeback by the visitors. They were down 15 points, got it to a 2-point game late, but Illinois shot a marvelous 90% from the free throw line to get the win. So first off, let's talk about UCLA's comeback there. Again, we talk about tough places to win. There might be places as tough as Champaign when they're good, but there's not really that many that are tougher. So for them to come back and make it really close was an impressive comeback. Tyler Bilodeau with 7 3-pointers. They showed some grit there.
Yeah, they did. It was a great adjustment by Mick Cronin at halftime. They found that pick-and-pop game with Tyler Bilodeau. If I'm Mick Cronin, though, you put all that effort into it, I know he's got to be sick after the game, as well as all the other guys. But to cut it to 2, you get a missed free throw and the offensive rebound after getting beat up on the boards, 36-23, which we know that's what Brad Underwood's team, you got to step down on a Vicic there. But UCLA is getting a lot of toughness from their guards. Dylan Andrews, 9 and 7. Sky Clark, 9 points. We talked about how that's been kind of the catalyst to them turning the season around, is those guys are averaging 20, 22 points a game in this win streak and beyond. So going forward, we know what Tyler Bilodeau is going to give you. We know what Eric Daly is going to give you, but those guards are going to be the ones that have to really be consistent for UCLA.
Speaking of guards, let's talk Kasparas Jakučionis.
Man, let's do it.
24 points once again for him. That's back-to-back games the freshman has scored 24 points. He's now broken the Illini record for 20-point games for a freshman. He passed it like a couple weeks ago already. I mean, he's been everything and then some for this Illinois squad.
Yeah, and what's crazy, obviously, from Kaunas, Lithuania, he mentioned to me and Dave Revsine that a lot of the people in Lithuania didn't think that he would get to play at Illinois, didn't think he would come over to the States and play. Well, I guess they were not quite right with that one, but he controlled the second half. You know, everything that he does in terms of the pick and roll, he's a maestro. He can make the left-hand hook pass, the right-hand hook pass. There's not a lot you can do to really game plan for him because he's so big. And his size, he sees over everything. The best thing you could do is probably switch and force him to make him a one-on-one player. But, you know, at this level, he has a lot for that, too. The thing that concerns me with Illinois, however, is their proficiency to shoot the three-point shot, right? They get three-point happy at sometimes. They're dead last in percentage. They save themselves with their offensive rebounding ability. But, you know, if you play a team, run into a team that is just as good defensive rebounding, keep you out that glass, it could get a little spooky. Other than that, really high potential for them. Same thing as Michigan. Guard play, positional size, everything you need. Will Riley's a guy who stepped up and been tremendous here after we thought he was kind of hitting the freshman wall. So Illinois has a lot to look forward to.
Not to put you on the spot here, but I'm going to put you on the spot here. Does Jakučionis remind you of anyone? Is there any comp that comes to mind and you're like, you know, he kind of feels like this player that either you played against or you just watched as a fan?
I mean, the easy one from a passing perspective and pick and roll is Luka Doncic, just the way he sees every pass. He can make every pass, his size. In terms of a player, it's probably one that he actually kind of reminds me of Drazen Petrovic a little bit. He can shoot the ball. He makes big shots. He wants the ball. I know that probably won't be a popular take, but I like being a little unconventional.
I like it.
You know, go ahead, yeah.
I was going to say, they've got a stretch coming up now. We talked in the last segment about a tough schedule. Here's what Illinois has got. Michigan State on Saturday is a ranked opponent. 5 of their final 6 games in conference play are against ranked opponents. That includes at Michigan, at Wisconsin, and oh, by the way, a middle of February game against Duke coming up on their schedule.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, Coach Underwood's confident in this group, clearly, just to put Duke smack dab in the middle. But that being said, the beautiful thing about Illinois, we sat here, we talked about Jakučionis, we talked about them beating UCLA and what they can do when they're healthy. Something that will carry them through this schedule is they are a defensive team. That's their identity. We talk about their pace, we talk about Jakučionis, Will Riley, and their ability to get up and down. But when Morez Johnson Jr. and Tomislav Ivisic are on the floor, 87.7 points per 100 possession. That would rank second in the country, only behind Tennessee. And Brad Underwood was raving about that when Ivisic had mono. He said he couldn't wait for him to get back. They could do so well with that because they can invert those guys. You could put MJJ down at the 5 on offense and Ivisic at the 4 and allow him to be the passer. Underwood thinks he's one of the best passers in the country. And then conversely, you put Morez Johnson at the 4 defensively, the way he can slide his feet, guard guys like Nick Martinelli, like a Cooper Flagg, guys like that, and then still have a 7-footer behind you, makes them tremendously dangerous defensively. Then you add in the 6'6" Jakučionis, 6'7" Humrick House, Will Riley. They're going to be very hard to score on. Oh, and by the way, Kylan Boswell is built like a football player, running back, and he's guarding at the point of attack. Dre Gibbs Longhorn. So this defense is what's going to carry them through that stretch.
I want to get one thought more on UCLA before we leave this topic. They lose 4 straight, then they win 7 in a row. What's the difference that you saw? Like, how were they able to get out of that funk when, if you remember, head coach was not happy, and he let everybody know about it, and it sort of felt like, oh, they kept losing game after game, like maybe he lost the locker room. Well, now, I mean, they lost that game to Illinois, but that's a tough one. Winning 7 in a row before then, something was different with them.
Well, I think, you know, Mick Cronin will get, I guess, chastised or praised for his run and challenging those guys. And I don't want to be cliche, but I think it's just as simple as he knows the guys he recruited. And to be able to step up and call those guys out and get the response that he's gotten from them just shows the mental toughness of those guys. He called Eric Daly the Terminator. He's been one of their more consistent guys. Tyler Bilodeau's, he's stepped up even more so during the 7-game win streaks. But I'm going to go back to those guards. Again, Sky Clark averaged 13 points a game last year at Louisville. He's down at 6. In the past 7-8 games, he's up at 9, 10 points a game. And I think those are the two guys, Sky Clark, Dylan Andrews, who have really responded to being called out. They're the head of the snake in terms of their defensive attack, but now they've become really consistent and not necessarily the head of the snake, but a consistent and contributing factor in their offensive attack, which is why you saw them claw back into that game against Illinois last night, because they were making the right decisions with Tyler Bilodeau in the pick and pop, getting rid of the ball on time, on target, allowing those different guys to get into rhythm.
Speaking of UCLA, did you see the women's matchup coming up tomorrow?
Oh, man.
UCLA and USC, the two LA powerhouse women's programs. How exciting is this matchup going to be? The two dominant LA schools head-to-head, UCLA and USC. They meet up Thursday evening, star power left and right. They're both off to such excellent starts to the season, the way we all knew they would be. And I mentioned star power. It's not just Betts. It's not just Juju Watkins. It's also Kiki Iriafen, who not only has been having a great season, but was just named one of the National Players of the Week for her work this past week. And through the magic of television, she is joining us now to chat about her season and this upcoming game against UCLA. Kiki, thanks for joining us. What for you is the most exciting part of this upcoming matchup? Two top 10 teams in the same city. What are you most excited about?
I'm most excited about trying to take down the #1 team, undefeated. They're having a great season. I think it's super special that they're also our rivals. So there's like an extra chip on our shoulder, but I think it's super exciting. Like, this is what I came back to LA for, like this big rivalry, this big game. And I think especially with everything going on with the fire, this is like a great time for the LA community to come together and watch some really great basketball.
Yeah, be a good distraction at a time when a lot of people there need it for sure. You brought up something interesting. We're in a different time, right, where transfers happen all the time, and it's wonderful for the players. But you also get thrown into this situation where, I mean, you played these schools back when you were at Stanford, so you know them and you have a history with them. But you were never a part of a USC-UCLA rivalry. Is that sort of taught when you get there? Do you just kind of pick it up as the season goes?
I will say at SC, we really don't like UCLA. This is not even with like sports. Even in my classes, my professors are like diehard SC fans. So I think, just being on this campus, you kind of naturally fall into that, but it's all in good fun. It's all in good, it's lighthearted, but I think there's just an extreme amount of pride for SC.
You'll face up with Lauren Betts. You were teammates a couple years ago together at Stanford. What do you remember about her from back then?
I love Lauren. Like, I am one of her biggest supporters, biggest fans. I think she's just really, like, she's been able to do this since freshman year, but has the opportunity and she's just showcasing that, and her ceiling is still so high. And I think with Lauren, like, you can't really stop her, but you can try to slow her down. And I'm super excited for everything she's been doing this season, but on Thursday, I hope it goes our way.
Yeah, I bet you do. Give me the keys. What do you guys have to do to take down the #1 team?
Yeah, I think it's really for us taking care of the ball, being the more connected team, not letting them get their stuff in transition. They're a very well-organized team. They run their stuff. So I think trying to just disrupt those things, definitely trying to, not let Lauren get to her spots because she's very deadly when she gets inside. And I think, my coaches have a great game plan. If we all just stick to that, we'll be good on Thursday.
Your season has been so great for the Trojans this year. You did have a rare loss to Iowa the other week. What can be learned from that game going forward the rest of the year?
I think that was a tough loss for us, but it came at a necessary time. I think we were able to reflect on a lot of things that we can work on. And, we were having a great season up until that point, and we're still having a great season. But I think for us as a team, we're able to get together and kind of just realign what our goals are and figure out what we need to do for the rest of the season so that we can, complete those goals. But I think for us, it's just, again, being the more connected team, taking care of the ball, and also playing with joy.
And maybe knock it down 18-1 to start off the game. That's never the best way to start a game, right?
Yeah, you're very right. We don't want to do that again.
What was that atmosphere like? You've played at high-level college basketball for years now, but that Iowa crowd is always packed, and they are always loud, and they were extra motivated in that game. What was it like for you as a visiting player?
Definitely. I think it was super exciting to play in that atmosphere. There's a lot of love and support, especially for the Iowa fans, for Caitlin. But I think one thing that I will say is like they were so loud you couldn't even hear yourself think. So I think they definitely had that on their side. But it was super amazing to play in that environment. The fans were super nice to us as well. But I think, those are the atmospheres that we love to play for. So we look forward to them all the time.
What did you think about the choice for you all to stay there and watch that ceremony afterwards?
I mean, it was definitely difficult, given that we had lost the game and it didn't feel good. But I think, Caitlin has done so much for the game of women's basketball that we wanted to show our respect for everything that she's done. And I think, that was something that my coach said, regardless of if we won or lost, that we were going to do. And I think that was the right decision as well.
Yeah, it came off pretty classy for all of you Trojans. Let's talk about you specifically. Now, last year, you took this massive step forward in your college career. And I know you got a lot more minutes, but there's some chicken or the egg there, too. You play better, you get more minutes, you play better. Why do you think you took such a big step forward last season?
I think that year I kind of just finally settled in. My confidence was honestly through the roof, and I was playing with all of my best friends, and I was just playing with so much joy. And I think the fact that I was just kind of playing carefree and not really thinking about it allowed me to perform at the highest level. But I'm super grateful for last season, super grateful for Stanford and everything that I learned. And I think it's just helping me propel this year as well.
It's such an interesting year for you, right? You've got new teammates, a new team, a new head coach, a new league. What has surprised you the most this year so far?
I think for myself, I've been doing a lot of growing, a lot of learning. You would think it's your senior year, you kind of know what you're doing, but I feel like not that I've had to reset, but I've had to do a lot of learning offensive schemes, defensive schemes, because I'm in such a different system. But I'm really grateful for that because I think it, again, will help me for the next level. And I actually love the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten has so many great teams and so many different teams. One night I'm guarding a 4-player that can shoot and can dribble, and then the next night I'm guarding a more posty 4-player. So I think for me, it kind of just keeps me on my toes every night.
What are some other differences you've noticed? Again, your whole career was the Pac-12 in this year. You mentioned that the players you're playing are different, but small picture, big picture, what feels different about playing now in the Big Ten?
I think there's a lot of coverage in the Big Ten. There's a lot more, viewership, a lot more support, even with the Big Ten network and on social media. They're always making videos for our team and kind of just promoting us. So I think I really do appreciate the constant outpour of content so that, people can get to know who we are and see how we play.
Tell me something about Juju Watkins that I don't know.
Okay, I mean, everybody knows Gigi Watkins is a superstar, but she's such a humble superstar. And I think, playing with her has been such a joy. She's someone who comes in with so much grace and, she's kind of like the best teammate, honestly. She's, uplifting her teammates in practice. She kind of wants the best for everybody. But I think playing with her it's been such a joy for me. I'm learning how to play with the superstar guard. But yeah, I think this year, we're still building that chemistry on the court. And, I think each and every game is continuing to get better and better, and it'll help us down in March.
I don't know, Kiki. I think I knew all that. Tell me something I don't know. Does she have a pet turtle at home? Is she good at checkers? Is she the funny one on the team? Does she dance? Give me something that I wouldn't know unless I was in the locker room or hanging out with her after games.
I mean, Ju's obsessed with acai. We have this spot on campus, Sun Life, and I feel like she's always there. So it's always an acai bowl coming in before practice. But I mean, she's just like everybody else. She's super goofy. She's fun. She's involved with the team. We'll make TikToks with people. We'll laugh. There's not something super specific, but I think, it's super nice that we're all able to just bond over the littlest things.
Tell me something about you I don't know.
Oh my gosh, about me? Okay, some people do know this, but I speak a little bit of Mandarin, so I can say a few things in Chinese.
Now, when we say I speak a few things, do you know my Spanish, donde está la biblioteca? Or can you have a conversation with people?
I can have a brief basic conversation, but if we keep going into it deeply, I'm gonna be lost.
How much did you study Mandarin?
I studied it for 3 years in high school.
Okay. I like it. Does that have you found that useful in a day-to-day situation?
Actually, yes.
Yeah?
I speak Chinese like randomly here and there, like on different sets. I'll like say something and they're all like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, so I definitely think I'll be using it a lot more in my future with like different NIL opportunities. But I think that's like a cool thing that I have up my sleeve.
And am I saying this right? Your full name is Okikiola?
Oh, Kiki Iriafen, yes.
What's the story behind that name? That's beautiful.
Thank you. So I'm of Nigerian descent, and my name is a Yoruba name, which is where I'm from. I'm half Yoruba, half Edo. And Okikiola basically means famous wealth. And my parents are like very, like they believe in like naming your child off of something that you want their future to be. So I kind of feel like I'm on that trajectory to living up to my name.
I think you are as well. Certainly what we have seen this season has been great. Kiki, congratulations on the great start to the year. Have a blast in this game. Top 10 matchups are pretty fun. I hope it's a blast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Saturday, it's a huge day of women's lacrosse on Big Ten Plus as Maryland takes on Syracuse in a top 10 showdown. Number 1 Boston College faces number 2 Northwestern in a national championship rematch. Stream all the excitement live, BigTenPlus.com. All right, for this next segment, I'm just backseating this. This is just Jordan taking over. Here's the idea. He wants to talk about the best transfer players in the Big Ten. So I'm going to throw out a name.
Join it?
No, I do, but
okay, all right.
But I'm just here to support.
Okay.
You're going to drive this, but I'm just going to throw out a name.
All right.
You're going to tell me why they're on your list, and then at the very end, you're going to give us your order of best players. Is that right?
Yeah, that's perfect. Also,
All right.
when we went to break, I need you to sound a little more excited when I'm coming back. Say, well, Jordan's coming back. You know what I'm saying? Okay, a little bit.
It's a good burn. It's a fair, appropriate burn.
go.
I will do better.
All right,
I promise.
I appreciate that.
Jordan Taylor's here. It's his transfer segment. Let's start off with a Michigan Wolverine, Vlad Golden. Why is he on your list of best transfers?
Well, that one goes without being said. The Wolverines are at the top of the conference. Again, I had them first game when I got here. I thought they were the best team in the conference. Didn't want to jump the gun. We love Danny Wolf, but I think he's the most important player on this team. He runs the floor like a gazelle. He has great hands. He stepped out to 3. He's first in true shooting percentage, first in free throw rate in the conference, 6th in 2-point percentage. And honestly, I think that he's a sleeper for Big Ten Player of the Year. I think that's obviously wrapped up, for me with Braden Smith. But if Braden Smith was not here, I think he would be right at the top of that list.
He's the leading scorer on the team. His buddy Danny Wolf, the leading rebounder, and also a transfer.
I knew you were going to take the back seat. I knew you were going to come in. But no, Danny Wolf, of course, man. I'm not number 2. We're going to rank later. But he is Tim Duncan to Vlad Golden's David Robinson. He's 4th in block percentage, 16th in the conference in 3-point percentage at 7 foot. And his ability to complement Vlad Golden, push pace, pull bigs away from the basket. He constantly makes big shots, big plays. He had that big and one when Michigan was down 4 last night that really, pushed the run forward to get them that victory. So Danny Wolf is in there as well. A lot of good transfers over there in Michigan. Trey Donaldson, too, he's not going to be
not on your list.
He's going to be my honorable mention. That hurts my heart because he's so good.
Well, let's get to some guards. Tell me about John Tonje at Wisconsin. How do you summarize his season?
Yeah, John Tonje at Wisconsin has come in like a flamethrower. He's come in with his hair on fire, doing this thing, shooting threes, knocking down shots. A.J. Storr was great, but John Tonje is even better. Hard to imagine that the Badgers found someone even better in the transfer portal. 10th in the conference in 3-point percentage, 6th in the conference in scoring. Wisconsin has always had great teams when they've had really high-level wings. You think about Sam Decker, you think about Alondo Tucker, even a guy like Ray Nixon. I bet you know Ray Nixon. Is
Sure.
that in your bag?
Sure.
I wasn't sure. I know you've been around forever, but I didn't know. But John Tonje.
Another solid burn
You know
by
what I'm
you.
saying? I'm on fire today. No, John Tonje's been outstanding, leading that offensive, the new look offense of Wisconsin. Higher pace, quicker. A lot of guys can handle, and he's the one who really knocks down shots, gets to the free throw line, obviously with the help of Nolan Winter, John Blackwell, and the rest of the game.
18 a game for Tonje. He made a splash back in November. Everybody kind of was like, oh, this guy is different than the dude we've seen previously once he's wearing a Badger uniform. Let's get to another bigger guy, Umar Ballo. We talked about Indiana and their big win What do you see from him this year?
Well, I think he's been the most consistent force for Indiana in Big Ten play, and quite frankly, throughout the season. Obviously, fifth-year senior, coming over from Arizona, huge in that win last night. But he's done a lot of different things well. When they've needed him to kind of catch the ball in the short roll, and you see the jump hook right there, and find guys as well. Also, he can get down on the block. He's a shot blocker defensively. I think the problem is they just haven't had consistency from the guys around him. But he has been absolutely tremendous in Bloomington, a guy you wish that they had another 6-year for. But unfortunately, he'll be moving on. But just a great, great season from him.
Leads the team in scoring and rebounding. Your next guy is, I think, my favorite. Not the best, but my favorite on your list, Maryland's Jacoby Gillespie. He has, time after time this season, taken and made an important shot in the closing minute of the game. It feels like once a week he's doing that for his team.
Yeah, what I love about Jacoby Gillespie is he's a guy that's coming from a smaller conference, right? And typically, sometimes guys from smaller, it takes them a minute to get up to speed with the size, the different physicality of the game. He came out humming. He's been extremely consistent. He wants the ball late game. His field goal percentage is down from his season at Belmont, but his three-point percentage is up. And when Maryland needs a big shot, he's going to give him a big shot. He's a perfect complement to Derek Queen and his point forward nature. Jacoby Gillespie is not really a point guard. He's the type of guy that, you're going to look up 5 years from now, and those are the guards that are in the NBA, the ones who can do a little bit of both, get buckets, but also facilitate a little bit, shoot the ball. So Jacoby Gillespie is someone I think has a really high upside as a pro.
New player on a new team in the Big Ten, Desmond Claude, leads his team in scoring and assists right now.
Yeah, Desmond Claude, I think, is probably been the second best player in Big Ten play behind Braden Smith. We talked about Vlad Golden as potential Big Ten player of the year, but USC has been outstanding with Desmond Claude on the floor. Without him on the floor, they have struggled. He's so vital to that offense. He also brings that positional size. He's really a matchup nightmare. He talked about Kasparas Yakachonis and his ability to see the pick and roll and size. Desmond Claude brings a different problem because you can't stay in front of him one-on-one. He gets downhill. He can be a locomotive. He's got a little wiggle like a 6'1 guard, like an AI. He's got a lot to his game. One of the few guys who really gave Michigan State problems defensively at the guard position for 40 minutes.
I think one of the transfers that I personally was like, oh, he's going to be really good, is Great Osibor at Washington. And not just because his name told you he would be above average, but of what he did at previous stops with that head coach in particular.
Yeah, and he was good Osibor for most of the year, but now he's been great the last 7 games. He's averaging 20 and 9, looking like that transfer who created so much buzz throughout the summer, and he's done it by getting back to his nature, taking guys away from the basket, using his crafty footwork, his touch around the basket. He's great defensively with his hands. Some of that has been thanks to his teammates. They're finally hitting some shots. Danny Sprinkle talked about getting good to great, and they're doing that, which has opened up the floor for Great Osibor. But when he has those guys around him playing the way they are, you get what you see.
The last one on this list is an interesting one. It's Northwestern's Jalen Leach. His numbers are really good, maybe not as spectacular as everybody else's. But remember, he's got more on his shoulders with the injury to one of the 2 Wildcat star players.
Yeah, and it was unfortunate to see Jalen Leach go down for the season with 8 because he was playing some of the best basketball of his career. He had typically struggled on the road throughout the season. He was averaging 8 points. He went to Michigan and gave Dusty May, Trey Donaldson, and crew everything they could handle before being ejected, which really changed the outcome of that game. But Jalen Leach, man, he is shifty. He's playing the pick and roll at a level that he hadn't quite his whole career. He's looking really like Kasparas Yakachonis in terms of seeing the weak side skip passes, seeing the short rolls, and was really running that Northwestern team the way they needed so desperately all year. And then again, just unfortunate to see him go down when he did.
Tough to see him go down. You had in the Barnheiser injury. It's just a bummer of what could have been for the Wildcats this season. All right, you have an order of these transfers for us.
I got an order. First, I got to shout out my honorable mention, Eric Daly Jr., the Terminator out there in UCLA. Didn't make the list, but really good transfers. So many that you could talk about. And Trey Donaldson, of course, he's been great for Michigan. But the order, you want a drum roll? Thank you, appreciate it. Number 1, I go with Desmond Claude, just because I think he's really led this USC charge. And this was a USC team who looked dormant at the start of the year. We thought they looked like they might not have won more than 3-4 Big Ten games. And he's really turned them around offensively, but also been very steady defensively for them. He scored 15 points in all but 2 Big Ten games and 20 points 5 times. So Desmond Claude is number 1. Number 2 is Vlad Golden. As I mentioned, I think that he would be in the race. His numbers aren't super gaudy, but again, I think he is that steadying force. Danny Wolf gets the love. Danny Wolf makes the passes, and he hits all the shots. He's great, but I think Vlad Golden's the most important. John Tonje is number 3 based on being just a top 5, top 6 scorer in the league. Danny Wolf is number 4, the Tim Duncan to the David Robinson. Umar Ballo at number 5. Jacoby Gillespie at 6. Great Osibor most of the time is number 7. And Jalen Leach at number 8.
I like it. It's a good list. It's one of the reasons the Big Ten's been so fun this year, this wave of new talent that has come into the league, not just in adding the West Coast schools, but in the transfers. A lot of them have lived up to the hype and helped Big Ten squads have such a great first half and change of this season. All right, we got a men's hoops doubleheader for you tonight. Hawkeyes and Scarlet Knights, followed by Huskies and Buckeyes. Coverage begins with a tip-off show at 6 Eastern, 5 Central. Of course, there's an episode of The Journey right beforehand. We'll have post-game coverage afterwards. It's a full night of men's hoops on the Big Ten Network, and let's break it down for you. Iowa and Rutgers, they are right on top of each other in the Big Ten standings. And Rutgers is a team that can win at Nebraska, can beat UCLA, right? They can beat Illinois. They've also lost 4 of their last 6, and they're 500 overall. So which team are we going to see?
You know what? Trent Meacham and I last night were in studio, and we were talking about, can this team make a run? And he brought up those points. I was a little nervous. Their defense has struggled mightily, not all year, but they've been really inconsistent, which is not normal for a Steve Pikiell coach team. However, you do have a guy in Ace Bailey who can go get you 40 on any given night, and you do have Dylan Harper who can get you 20, 10, and 5. So you add those 2 juggernauts, and even talking to the Iowa coaching staff, I know they're thinking, hey, I hope those guys need to load manage or something like that based on where they're headed. Obviously hope they're healthy and everything like that. But if you get those 2 guys together and you get a consistent level of effort on defense, they can beat anybody on any given night.
Yeah. By the way, Trent Meacham prefers the nickname Big Daddy Meach, just so you know. Next
I will
time
not
you
do
see him.
that. I refuse. Sorry, hey Trent, man. I hope you made it home safe. No chance.
It's a good nickname.
No chance. Are you back driving, by the way?
Am I what?
Are you back driving? Are you driving again? You were in the back seat. You back in the front? I know.
For the show.
For the show, okay.
I literally thought you meant because of the snowstorm across the Midwest right now. I'm like, yeah, I'm driving. I'm getting home. No, you meant metaphorically in the show.
I wasn't sure.
Yes, I'm driving.
Okay, my bad. Let me slide over.
Deal with it, shooting guard.
Let me slide
I'm at point. But as for Rutgers, 12-12 record, like if they have a shot at the tournament, you got to get hot now. You got to make a run now.
You got to get hot now. And I was a team that's struggling. We talked about Oregon had to beat Northwestern last night. This is a game you have to win. I was not going to lay down. They got a lot of dog in them. Peyton Sanford playing some of his last basketball in a Hawkeye uniform, and his brother's obviously going to play for him. Josh Dix is one of the most untalked about players in this conference, who I think is tremendous on both sides of the ball, two-way. So it's not going to be an easy challenge. That's going to be a fun matchup, Dylan Harper and Josh Dix.
So Rutgers is a team that needs to go on a run right away. I would put Ohio State as another team that, it's not as bad. They're 14-10 right now, but got to start piling up some wins right now if you want a postseason.
Yeah, Ohio State, Bruce Thornton, same thing. He wants to get to the postseason. All these teams are scratching, clawing to get into the Big Ten tournament. It's like soccer, Great Osibor is used to that relegation being from Bradford, England. So they're right on the cusp. What Washington has, for one, is they have the tiebreaker with Minnesota, with Northwestern. They have Ohio State and Penn State. So if they can get this, they're going to be looking really good. If you're Ohio State, you're still a team that you have tremendous guard play with Bruce Thornton, with Kez Glover, and with John Mobley Jr., and you add in Devin Royal, who's been up and down, but he's a really good player. Ohio State's one of those teams. They could make a run right here with the caliber and the makeup of their team. But again, you have to beat a Washington team at home.
Well, we talked so much the first 20 minutes of the show about teams in the Big Ten having crazy, brutal schedules in these final 3 or 4 weeks. Ohio State's only got one ranked opponent left. So that doesn't mean if you're not ranked, you're an easy opponent. But I'm saying you wouldn't put them in that daunting schedule like we talked about at the beginning of the show.
You wouldn't, but to your point, it's still a scary schedule because Washington, Danny Sprinkle has talked about all year long that they're close, they're figuring out. In these last couple games, again, they're going good to great. They're moving the ball. The three-point percentage is going up. Ty Harris, he's been playing at a high level. So this is not an easy game for Ohio State. And I got to shout out Great Osibor. My son is half British. I got to show love to the British basketball community.
Did you like driving for a little while in the show?
Oh, man. Yeah, it was fun. I was about to hop out and ghost ride it, let everyone take my hands off the wheel.
Don't get used to it, rookie. Thanks for watching.